Um, all right, so welcome again. This is Kelsey, 2022 Food Plus Policy Landscape. So recording, and it is not live on Facebook, unfortunately, but we will be posting the recording afterwards on our YouTube and to our website, and we'll be able to share it with people who weren't able to attend. So a few housekeeping things. We do have the chat on for attendees to be able to speak and contribute. You can message hosts and panelists, or you can message everyone. Please pay attention to that difference. We're also going to be using the Q&A feature. So if you hover your mouse over the bottom, there's a Q&A button, and that's going to be our sort of more organized way to ask questions. If you put questions in the chat, they might kind of get lost as the chat continues on. So please use the questions feature. You can name somebody if you have a question for a specific person. We might not be able to get through all questions, but we will try to address some of them, and we'll try to follow up with you. Also, those are a few Instagrams you can follow to kind of keep in touch with the organizations that helped put this together, which, next slide, please, is a mahalo, reason to mahalo our co-sponsors and collaborators who helped put together this event, as well as the video series that we'll be introducing to you in a second, which is kind of the fun part around this event to continue it on. Just a disclaimer and a note on that is that not all of the co-sponsors of this event are necessarily supporting or leading the efforts on all of the bills discussed here today, but this is a group that has come together to share what they're working on and to try to inform you all ahead of and as kind of a kickoff to the legislative session. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is our agenda. We're basically going to run through the upcoming food system bills that we know about. We're going to transition over into a presentation from Noekhalifi from Transforming Hawaii's Food System Together about a policy database that she's put together, a wonderful tool. And then we're going to have a panel about engaging with the legislative session with our wonderful guests, Representative Amy Peruso, Maui County Council Member Keani Rollins Fernandez, and former Food Plus intern Andriana or Ja Kaluhia Okalani. And then for those of you who might be new to engaging with the legislative session, in the final part of this presentation, we're going to have some resources for getting ready to engage, some instructions on how to get set up for that. Okay, so next slide, please. With that, I guess we've got to jump right into what we've prepared for you today, which is a video series about some of the policies that are upcoming that are going to be bills. We don't know the bill numbers yet because they haven't been assigned, but we kind of know the topics of some of them. And we've actually created videos for 5 or 6 of them. Some of them are uploaded already at this link, bit.ly/foodplusyoutube is kind of the quick link to get over there. I encourage you to check them out after this event, or hell, concurrent if you want. But I'm gonna play for you kind of a reel that shows you some highlights from some of them. Not all of them are actually posted yet, so they'll be coming out in days to come, and we'll be kind of dripping them out on social media to share. So with that, I have to share my screen and make sure that I do it correctly and play for you guys kind of the preview video that we can look forward to seeing the rest of the video series. All right.
The Food Hub Bill is a funding source to support existing food hubs and also new food hubs that are becoming into existence. It will support infrastructure needs to help improve and build new facilities, also to help with any supplies that may be needed or aggregation tools, packaging, washing, anything that comes into contact with our food and the ways that we distribute it through the community. It will also support our local farmers and give them the ability to stay on the aina farming and doing what they love the most. What it will also help is for our community and our lahui to help us to be more connected to our food system and understand where our food is coming from.
The basic idea behind this bill is that the state would provide funding for food banks to purchase fresh, locally grown produce from farmers. And the idea behind that is that hungry families can eat healthy foods. It also supports local farmers and keeps money within the local economy.
What one of the efforts does this year is establish a P20 Agriculture Education Coordinator within UH-CTAR to oversee this statewide coordinated effort to make sure every student at every age has equitable access to agriculture education, garden and farm-based learning. Part of what that looks like is establishing a school garden specialist position. A school garden specialist would support the many schools that have chosen to use gardens as outdoor classrooms. It's important to take learning outdoors in a big way. We envision a garden on every campus, a paid, trained garden educator in every school garden, and curriculum that's integrated and making use of outdoor learning environments.
Our proposal is a 2-cent per ounce fee on drinks with added sugar. So think fruit punches, fruit drinks, sports drinks, energy drinks, sodas. Sugary drinks are the #1 source of sugar in the American diet, and according to the American Heart Association, children drink enough sugary drinks to fill a bathtub every year. We think that this fee is a way to fund a lot of the community programs that would improve health. A 2-cent per ounce fee in Hawaii is estimated to raise about $60.5 million per year.
All right. So that's a preview of the video series that we've created. Can you go to the next slide, please? Oops. Yeah, so please check them out. There are several that have just been posted, and I think one more coming soon, or 2 more coming that we'll post shortly in the next few days. And then also I want to acknowledge that these are not probably all of the wonderful bills that will be available or happening in the 2022 legislative session. So if you know about any particular one, we've created a Padlet. I don't know if everyone's used Padlet before, but it's a great way to collaboratively add to a kind of virtual wall. So this is the link bit.ly/2022 bill share. There are other bills that some of our panelists today even know about and are working on that we weren't able to make videos about or talk about in the presentation that's coming up. So please feel free to use that link to start to kind of crowdsource information and share with each other about what's coming up next. All right, so other than just watching those videos on your own time, we're going to give you a quick overview of each of the videos and what the bills are about. And to do that, I'm going to pass it over to Ioane Yan, who is a former Food Plus intern, an advocate with Food Plus this year, and an amazing guy. He's going to take you through the next slides.
Mahalo, Kelsey. Aloha mai kako. My name is Ioane, and I'm going to provide a brief overview of some key bills being discussed in our new video series. In one of our videos, we have Lydie Bernal explaining farm-to-school priorities for the Hawaii Public Health Institute this session. Over the last decade, the farm-to-school program has done a lot to provide students with agriculture educations. HiFi's 2 farm-to-school priorities aim to help create more farmers, as well as a higher level of consciousness in society when considering food and agriculture. The first effort Lydie discusses is the creation of a position for a P20 Agriculture Education Coordinator. This position would provide a dedicated professional to ensure a quality agriculture education opportunity for children while increasing their access to appropriate learning resources. Excuse me. The second effort is to create a position within the Department of Education for a school garden specialist. This position would provide greater overall support for schools choosing to participate in more outdoor learning programs and better connect them to resources needed to thrive. In another video from our series, HiFi's Jalen Murakami explains the Farm to Food Bank bill. This bill would provide funding for food banks to enhance their local purchasing power. This would provide the community with more healthy and appropriate foods, as well as supporting local farmers. For the Food Hubs bill, we have a video with Kristen Oliveira of Noekhalifi Valley. Kristen explains how this Food Hub bill would allocate funding for the support of existing food hubs, as well as the creation of new food hubs. Food hubs are a tremendous resource for consumers and producers, as we have seen throughout this COVID pandemic especially, and supporting this effort would certainly help to increase their benefits within our communities. Another part of our video series features Hunter Hevelin. Hunter is a food systems planner, and he explains two bills relating to healthy soils, the cover crop reimbursement pilot program and the compost reimbursement program. The cover crop reimbursement pilot program is a 3-year program that will provide financial reimbursement for producers using cover crops and includes the creation of a cover crop reimbursement pilot program manager position in order to manage the distribution of funds and the day-to-day program operations. The composting reimbursement program aims to reduce the amount of biodegradable material being wasted by converting it to compost, which will also reduce the amount of waste being imported, or excuse me, the amount of compost being imported. This initiative is based on a successful 2018 pilot program, and in addition to reimbursing participating farmers, the program would also create a position for a full-time compost reimbursement program manager to oversee daily operations. In another video, we hear from Jalen Murakami again of Hi-Fi, who discusses the sugar-sweetened beverage fee bill. This bill would tax beverages that contain added sugars, such as juice and soda. The intention of this bill is to encourage healthier beverage choices while using tax monies to help fund community programs dealing with health disparities that are directly connected to excess sugar consumption, such as diabetes and obesity. For a video discussing the new ADC reform bill, we have Wahiawa community member TJ Quaresma. Last legislative session, HB 1271 was introduced, proposing that the Agribusiness Development Corporation be dissolved and lands be returned to the Department of Agriculture for management. However, HB 1271 failed to be heard by the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Environment. The ADC reform bill now aims to find ways for the ADC to better manage ag lands, as they have been found to be extremely negligent with management on several past occasions. These are all the bills being discussed in our video series. Please check out the links here. And as Kelsey said, we have a Padlet for sharing any other upcoming bills that we may not have gotten to or that we weren't aware of yet. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Ioane. I really want to mahalo him for putting together these really concise and succinct slides. There's like a whole world of information that you could dig into about each of these bills. And he had to work with each of these advocates to kind of narrow it down to something really digestible and quick. I hope that others on this call will dig deep into them, but for now, we're just going to give that surface level, and we're going to move on to our next speaker, which is Noekhalifi from the Transforming Hawaii's Food System Initiative. Noekhalifi is president of Khalifi Enterprises, where she assists clients with project development and management, strategic planning, project implementation, and meaningful community engagement. She specializes in systems planning, food security, energy security, community empowerment, and helping communities to create and implement courageous space for difficult and emotionally charged discussions related to land use, ancestral knowledge, indigenous rights, economic development, and access to capital. She's also Chief Strategy Officer for Progression Energy. So she's doing a lot of amazing things. And I'm gonna hand the share screen and the stage over to Noe to tell us about a policy database tool that she's put together that is an amazing resource for those interested in food systems policy.
And I apologize because I am having, hold on one second. Can you see that?
No, I'm
Okay,
making
hold
you
on.
co-host right now, just in case
Okay.
that's the trouble. I don't know.
Apologies. I cannot see where the, you know what,
Shall I share
see.
your?
Yeah, can you share my,
slides? Okay.
sorry about that.
Okay.
I cannot see.
No worries. This is why we've got the backup plan. And I
Oh,
just
wait.
gotta-
Wait, sorry. I might be able to do this. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Apologies, everyone. I had everything set up and it went cuckoo.
That's what happens, right?
Oh, hold on. What last time? Okay, let's try this last time. Okay,
All
can you see?
right. Yeah, we see your screen. Awesome.
Okay, thank you everybody, and apologies for that. My name is Noekhalifi, and I'm very honored to be a part of this event. My experience with the legislative process came as working as a legislative staffer for Senator Akaka, And our efforts at the federal level always required us to understand and be connected to what was happening at the state level and the county level to make sure that whatever we were doing at the federal level was in support of the state and county. And I was incredibly fortunate to be able to do that 20 years ago when bipartisan collaboration was a key component of how we did all of that. When I moved back to Hawaii, I became involved in renewable energy and quickly saw and quickly learned that food security and energy security are intrinsically tied together. With that, I was honored to be asked by Albie and his team to be a part of the Transforming Hawaii's Food Systems project. And back when we started 18 months ago, this is kind of the global view that we were looking at. And Katie Schwinn worked very closely with me in creating the tool that we're going to share with you today. Katie couldn't join us today. She's in Germany getting her master's degree. When we started to do our research into policy, we quickly saw that there are a number of really good policy assessments that have already been done in Hawaii. And we began to see that the challenge was, how do we create a user-friendly tool where everyone can see and have access to the different statutes, the different reports, the different regulations that impact the food system? And when we look at policy itself, in my limited experience, what's the purpose of policy? And I've found that generally the purpose of policy is to either incentivize or limit certain behaviors to impact the way a system is working, right? So we tend to immediately go to, okay, let's create this law. But a lot of times we need to understand what's already on the books, what is and isn't working, why isn't it working, and kind of what's blocking the system from operating. And so we created a tool that will hopefully give everyone access to what's already been done, what the current policies are, and really taking a look at what's the context and what changes, big or small, do we really need to make. In creating this approach, we looked at how might we make the information easily accessible, and we chose the Airtable platform, one, because it tends to be free and it's very user-friendly. Once you start playing with it, it's kind of hard to break. And also, we started with identifying, okay, what are the most relevant policies? So note, this isn't everything. This is a start, but we tried to have a really substantial start. So it includes all of the statutes from Department of Health, Department of Agriculture, and Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. Then the relevant county statutes from all 4 counties, and then the reports. And then we also included the Sustainable Development Goals, because that was a big part of putting everything together. Now, how did we categorize it? So when you look at the Airtable itself, a key part of this is understanding what is the back end, how is everything organized. So we created 6 different categories, and then you can see in here in each of those categories what the subcategories were. So they're agriculture and economic development, and then all those subcategories: conservation, ecosystems, climate change and biodiversity, nutrition, diets, food security, hunger, public health, then energy, inputs and resources, infrastructure, and workers and labor. And then the next thing to know is this is what the Airtable actually looks like. So I'm going to go to a live link shortly, but I just kind of wanted to explain. You have different tabs at the top that are here that say policy, SDG, indicators, the reports. And then this is we added 2 more tabs that have stakeholder input. You'll see it on the live screen, as well as proposed policies. Now, everyone can input and update the table so that you can utilize it in real time. And the way we search it are through categories and filters. So with that, let me switch screens and let me get us to the next share screen, which is on the other side. 1 second, here we go. So this is what, can you see the share screen? Oh, this came up
We
here.
can.
Okay.
We see it. Awesome.
All right, so this is the Airtable itself live, and there's we'll send out the link so everyone can have access to it. The tabs are policy, reports. Oh, it might take longer to come up. The SDG indicators, stakeholder input, and proposed policy. Okay, the reason we chose Airtable is because the functionality of Airtable is it makes any criteria and searching really easy. So this is an example. When you come in, there's views. You can always create a new view and a new search, and you can save it, or you can play with one that's already there. So if we were to, for example, start with a policy compilation, what is this bringing up? So you can see if I go to the categorization and I click, and I can say, I want records where categorization has any of the following categories. And remember all of those categories I just listed for you in the slide, they're all here. So say I wanted to take a look at public procurement as it relates to aquaculture and fisheries, okay? And then, let me see. And I'd also wanna know about indigenous knowledge and biosystems management. I would put those in there, hit sort, hit apply, and this is what we see. Everything that is within the HAR and HRS that applies to that is there, right? And say I was looking through this and I said, what's this farm purchase program here? So then if I expand the record, it's going to have the summary and the content with any link that goes to it. It's going to have the URL that will take me to the information. It's going to also link me to the SDGs and the link so I can see what impact, how the relation is. And if there were any reports that were available as it relates to this provision, it would be there, right? So you can look within this table and play around by categorization, by what field. So here's another example that's just up here. This one, we're looking at land access opportunities. And the way we filtered this is we said, okay, we want to look for information where any categories of land, the policy name itself includes the word district. It does not include environmental regulations, and it is not Maui County or Honolulu County or Kauai. It's just Big Island, and it doesn't include tax. And if that's the case, then these are all the provisions that'll come up for that. And you can take a look at what they mean. And if there are any reports, if there's, what all the links are, and you can expand on any one of those. So you can see, like, if we're looking at planning, it would begin to link us to the CDPs and all of those other reports. So this is just an example. There's also a tab that talks about stakeholder input. There's also a tab for proposed policy so that we can start putting things in there and everybody knows about it and people can start providing some input so we can just kind of bring the silos down and everyone have access to information. Again, it's not complete. There's always going to need to have things added, but we're hopeful that this will be a first start and a strong foundation. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Noe. I'm seeing lots of incredibles in the chat and claps. That is a remarkable tool, and I have not had the time yet to just dive into it as much as I want to. And just, as somebody who just in the last few years got interested in food policy, having a tool like this to really be able to educate myself is amazing. And I wish I had it a few years ago. I'm so happy that we have it now. So we will try to share out the link to that in the chat or however we can when it's ready. But I'm going to move us along to the next part of our program then, which is going to be run by Anne Frederick of the Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action. She's going to be moderating our panel of guest speakers of some amazing women who have insight from various perspectives that's all really important about engaging with the legislative session. So I'll give it to you, Anne.
Aloha, it is my pleasure to welcome our esteemed panelists to share a bit about their work to improve Hawaii's food systems. Today we are joined by Council Member Kiani Rollins Fernandez, who was born and raised on the island of Molokai and grew up in a family intimately connected to our Aina. Councilmember Rollins Fernandez serves the people and Aina of Molokai, Maui, Lanai, and Kaho'olawe as the Vice Chair of the Maui County Council. She works to ensure that her community's voice is put at the center of decision-making, that Aina is protected, and that our people are cared for. She has made it her life's work to protect and serve our islands, our community, and our culture here in Hawaii. Along with being a steward for our Aina, she is a proud mother of 2 beautiful children. She works hard to support initiatives that prioritize environmental protection, education, food sustainability, affordable housing, and smart development. We are also joined by State House Representative Amy Peruso. Representative Peruso serves Central Oahu's District 42, which includes Wahiawa, Whitmore Village, Launani Valley. She is currently the Vice Chair of the House Agriculture Committee. Representative Peruso taught in Hawaii Public Schools for 20 years before running for elected office. Witnessing her students' education being damaged by the federal No Child Left Behind policy, she became more active in her union, the Hawaii State Teachers Association, and ran for state office, becoming HSTA Secretary Treasurer in 2015. She's an active participant in Hawaii's labor movement. With colleagues across the state, she has fought for better healthcare for our families, genuinely affordable housing, clean energy investments, and a government that is truly accountable to the citizens of our state. Both Councilmember Rollins Fernandez and Representative Peruso have been champions for good food and agricultural policy, and will share a bit about their priorities and why it is so critical for community voices to be engaged at both the council and the legislative levels. Andriana Ja Kaluhio-Kalani is from Makakilo and Palolo and is a mother of 2. She is a graduate of the University of Hawaii West Oahu with a double major in sustainable community food systems and political science. She has been organically farming for the last 2 years. She graduated this past fall of 2021 and is interested in pursuing a law degree with a focus in Native Hawaiian law. Ja was a participant in the very first ever Food Plus policy program at UH West Oahu last year, and will share a bit about how her experience learning how to engage in legislative process around food systems. Thanks so much to each of you for joining us here today, these amazing women. So we have a limited time for a panel. So this first round of questions, I'm going to ask if you folks can limit your response to about 5 minutes each. So Ja, I'm going to start with you. As I mentioned, you were an intern in the first ever Food Plus policy program. And I'm just wondering if you can share a little bit of some highlights from the program or some key takeaways from your first year of engaging in the legislative session.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I really, really appreciate it. Just to know that my voice matters in this kind of setting makes me feel like my career is just going exactly where it needs to go. So the highlight of my senior practicum with the Food Plus policy program was basically being able to utilize social media as a tool of change. In order to understand like the action that we were creating, it was really, really key that we got in touch with community members and get their engagement, and to see like the like-minded like members of community come together and use their voice to advocate what they believe in, but then also advocate for the future was the highlight of my experience. And a second highlight was basically learning how to write testimony. This is something that I feel is really important when it comes to Senate and House bills, because you need to know what is happening in the legislature so that we can be a part of a greater change. So what really moved me was understanding that I got to take my personal kuleana, and establish the importance of that kuleana through my testimony. And so my main takeaways from the food policy internship was basically just to understand who your officials are, know who they are, know who's advocating for what bills, but then also understand how the legislator works, how the process of the bills work, and then how to also advocate for the bills that directly are affecting your community. And then further, how to write a proper testimony. That's definitely something that I like to understand and like to show people how to understand it. And then interpreting bills as well. Yeah, it was great.
Thank you so much for that, Ja. I think absolutely you nailed it when you said kind of demystifying the process, and that's what this internship is really all about. Yeah, is helping people understand, because often policymaking can seem kind of opaque if you're not familiar with it. So well said. Representative Prusso, can you share some of your key priorities for food and ag policy, both for this upcoming session, but more broadly and long term? Because we know sometimes, you know, these policies take years to enact.
Okay, well, I mean, if you just asked me the first part, then could be here for a couple hours. But then the second part, okay, I'm just going to take a stab at it. So I'm going to focus on this session. This session, we are really working on that nexus between agriculture and addressing the climate crisis. So I've been working a lot with community advocates and stakeholders to think about healthy soil, and introducing some bills around a cover crop, reimbursements, incentives, compost reimbursements for farmers, and then also thinking about how we can work with the counties. So I love that Kiani's here, not just because I love her, but also because we're great allies. Working with the counties in terms of waste diversion. So getting all of that organic waste diverted. So asking the counties to set up plans for such diversion, and that will incentivize our private partners to really take that gold and make it into compost for our farmers. So we're not importing compost. I think too, I've been really inspired by the work being done in other places around restorative aquaculture. So thinking about how we can really cultivate limu and bivalves, not just for food sources, but also for the restorative impact on our aquatic ecosystems. So I would say, kind of going back to the regenerative agriculture and thinking about that in a way that is not just about soil health, but also kind of our public health questions. And we know that Monsanto has recently been found guilty of some criminal charges with respect to pesticide use. And that's been a long-standing issue. We addressed it with the legislature in 2019, I believe. And I want to revisit that. I want to expand pesticide buffer zones to 1/2 a mile, because that's what the science says that we should be doing, not 100 feet. And I'm also working with advocates around farmer equity, because I think that we used to, in Hawaii, actually invest in a diverse range of farmers, and we aren't doing that anymore. We don't even know what our farmer workforce or farmer population looks like, and we need to understand that better and support, you know, people who don't have access to resources, and to kind of bring them into this work and support them financially. So in terms of access to land and water and additional capital that they'll need. I would say the last thing that I've been working on is something that I've been working on all session, which is restructuring ADC. So we're in negotiations about that right now, but I really, at the very least, want to restructure that attached agency so that we are better supporting small farmers and helping them make a shift to sustainable agriculture, because they control so many thousands of acres of land, many of them ceded lands actually, or seized lands. And it's incumbent upon the people running that agency that they shift their practices so that we can, I think, really work that land in ways that does justice to it. So I could talk all day about longer term vision, but that's what I'm looking at, like right immediately in front of me.
Thank you so much. That's really exciting, all those priorities. Councilmember Rollins Fernandez, can you share some of the good food and ag policy that the Maui County Council has been able to enact, and any future goals you have for this year at the council?
Absolutely. Mahalo, Annie, and mahalo to all the hosts and sponsors of this excellent panel and event. I love how sophisticated and user-friendly our grassroots advocacy has gotten, because that's truly what it will take for us to fight fire with fire. And so to answer your question, Annie, some of the initiatives at the Maui County Council level, one is resourcing. That's a big way that, or a big part that we play, a role that we play in our community. Budgets are a document reflecting and actively expressing one's values, and putting our money where our mouth is when we say that we support local food security, food independence. We need to invest in those efforts and initiatives. So some of the ways that we've done this is through our micro grant farming program. And we established this grant program. So the micro grants is about up to $25,000 for farmers that are producing food for sale, so for commercial purposes. And so we did that in 2020. That was the first year. And I saw last year that Oahu just started a similar initiative, and I'm so stoked for Oahu for getting that going there. Food hubs, so funding food hubs like Sustainable Molokai mobile market, the Maui food hub, which started after the pandemic. So that was definitely a silver lining from the pandemic, is that it really kickstarted this idea of having a food hub on Maui that they've been tossing around for years. So they got that going. And so watching that video about the food hubs just gets me really excited, and I love that it's a priority. Hawaii Farmer United Union, so funding their annual convention and their farmer apprentice mentorship program. Sustainable Molokai has a similar growing farmers program, because we identify that farmers kind of starting to age out is a serious problem. And so we need to start growing more farmers from our younger generations, funding 4-H, Grow Some Good, school composting, garden installations, and our slaughterhouses, both on Maui and Molokai, and food pantries. And then some legislation that we passed is we have the voters passed in, was it 2020? Charter amendment to create a Department of Agriculture. And so this department is meant to help small farmers to navigate the system, state or county regulations, and to help identify grants and other funding sources to invest. And then we also have our ag parks. Piggybacking off of what Amy was talking about, so at the county level, we passed legislation last year to phase out the use of pesticides on county-owned and managed lands. And so we're giving the county a year, the departments a year to enact that. Addressing water rates and real property taxes so that we're not making it too expensive for farmers to farm. And like Amy, I could go on and on, but some future, policies that we're looking into is, stopping the fake farm, gentleman estates, updating archaic, outdated laws that inadvertently make it harder for farmers to farm, and helping to invest more in commercial kitchens, packing and processing, and again, slaughterhouses has been identified as an issue. So, mahalo.
Thank you so much, Kiani. Super inspiring, and I think the Maui County Council is just such an incredible example of what is possible when the political will is there, and there are a majority of council members who are willing to support these kinds of policies. So thank you for all of your initiative. Ja, I'm wondering if you can share from your experience last year any advice or tips for folks who are newer to engaging at the legislature.
Okay, so I did prepare some tips and tricks. One, and it's just five, but the first one is to get familiar with your Capitol website. This is something that you really need to understand. You know the ins and outs of that website, and then also utilizing the tools that you just got today. That Airtable is amazing, and I'm so impressed by that. Anyway, moving forward, understand the difference between House and state bills because they do work together, but then there's different people representing different types of bills. So understand the difference. Number three, again, reiterating this, but know who your senators, your House representative, your council members, and who are your elected officials, because those are the people that you want to engage with kind of on a week-to-week basis, especially during this the legislative season coming up. Number four, and this kind of wraps up into number five as well, don't get discouraged if bills don't go through. I think, and this goes into number five, you have to understand that the change doesn't happen when the like after the problem. The change happens when the problem's like in the heat of the moment. So you as an individual can be a part of a larger change collectively. So don't give up. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ja. Representative Peruso, I've often chatted with you about how critical it is for community partnerships to be sort of central to the work that you do and drive the work that you do. Can you share a little bit more about that way of working as a lawmaker, but also why it's important for community members to get engaged, and any tips you might have on how to be an effective advocate?
I think that's a really interesting question. And I think that that's what we all try to do, honestly, as legislators, to be as connected to our communities as we can and to work from that grounding. I would say that I just came out of a background of activism, and those are the networks that I'm connected to. So it made sense for me to kind of, I happen to listen to people who are kind of challenging the status quo. Like that's just, I'm just predisposed to do that. And I think that our most powerful insights come from listening to those who are not being heard. And I think that's especially true in my work around ADC. I feel like my community was really being silenced and marginalized in the conversations around what was happening to that land. And they had a lot of really important, really insightful things to say about how that land could and should be used. And frankly, like I've learned more from my community than I've been able to offer them over the time of my service. So I've just benefited enormously from really powerful community leaders who they're moving the change. And I do this thing over here in the Capitol, but it's coming from them. And I will say too, like I wanted to speak to what Ja had to say about the process, the engagement with the legislative process. I think too, what happens is it's not just community leaders interacting with the legislators. When you folks pivot and you translate that for the public using social media or whatever other tools you have available for us, you're doing a huge service because not everybody has the time to like break down the technicalities of bills and understand, you know, the implications of different pieces of legislation. But if you can do that and kind of connect it to this larger vision, you can help mobilize people and help them understand why politics is so important.
Thank you. Councilmember Rollins Fernandez, I really appreciated what you said about the budget kind of being a reflection of values. And I just wanted to kind of lift that up because I do think we often hear, oh, that's not viable, that's not viable. But I think what you folks are doing at the county level is showing that really how we allocate public monies and public lands and is really a reflection of values, and it's not set in stone. So thank you for that example. You've also commented on the importance of strong community engagement at the council level. And can you share how that helps you as a council member advance meaningful policy?
Absolutely. And I think, Representative Caruso was definitely being overly generous. She is one of the most engaged legislators in that volcano-shaped building with her community and beyond. So not everyone, not all legislators are made the same. Like, she is exceptional in her work in collaborating with the community. And I, mahalo Ja for those tips and tricks. And I absolutely echo, her the 5 tips that she shared. And I also want to, say that I recognize that, engaging in the system can be overwhelming, especially if you don't have the kind of time to invest. So another advice is to follow organizations like some of the sponsors here, and groups whose values and priorities reflect your own, and watch for those calls to action. And then that way you can make sure that those bills that you would want to support, you don't forget, because when it's posted, it's like a 48-hour notification, which is really sad. At the council level, we're required to do at least 6 days notification, and a 48-hour turnaround time is hard. But for me, as an elected official, it's collaborating with the community to draft policy and to identify and then update existing outdated laws that are affecting them negatively. It has been tremendous for me. And then having the community follow through with testimony, written or oral testimony. A lot of times elected officials will hear from people who are paid to be there. And so, hearing from the lobbyist can skew perspective oftentimes, and community testimony is important to offset some of these talking points. And having the community share firsthand their experience with this legislation I can't understate how valuable it is. As a decision maker, it's also important to hear from the community any potential concerns with the language of the legislation that can be easily fixed, so that will reduce any unintended consequences. And I'll reiterate the tips and tricks of number 5. Don't get discouraged. Oftentimes people are intimidated to testify, totally understandable. And perhaps it's because they don't feel as experienced, as a lobbyist or those who testify regularly. But I encourage you not to feel intimidated. Bring your authentic self, because your input is needed, absolutely. And the last thing I wanted to add is just, oftentimes we get templates, and sometimes those can be less effective because it's harder to find the testifier's own positions and mana'o in there. And sometimes just 2 to 3 sentences, or whether written or orally given, can be more effective. So don't be intimidated. Bring yourself. We want to hear from you. Mahalo.
Thank you, Council Member. And we are actually a little under time, which almost never happens on panel. So I want to give each of you a few moments for any closing thoughts. And I do want to second what Kiani mentioned about Amy. You are one of the most accessible and committed and driven people. So we're really fortunate to have you serving in your current capacity. So thank you. So why don't we start in the same order with Ja, and any closing thoughts to get people excited to engage in food policy this session?
Okay, so I did write something. The change is that you're a part of is a larger change, but it goes beyond just the legislative. Active change starts when you begin. So just start. And that's it.
Perfect. Mahalo, Ja. Councilmember Rollins Fernandez.
I don't think I can follow that. That is beautiful. That is so perfect. Just begin, you know, whether it's actively engaging in council or at the legislature or with Congress, or if it's just growing your own food, you know, like just start. I think that's a perfect sentiment to end with, Ja.
Representative Prusso.
I don't know why there's a lot of static where I am, but I hope that you're not affected by my static. I want to say that it's important to kind of share this at the dinner table and share this, you know, with people that you don't think are interested. Like to be talking about food systems and to be talking about what are our next steps, what is our big vision? Because I think so often we get caught up in the, like me, like what's immediately before me, and this session, and really like what I appreciate about especially Albie's work at the university is this systems approach. And I think that as advocates, we can not only be connecting the dots between all of those different parts of the Airtable in meaningful ways to change policy, but also be thinking about the future we want, our preferred future, and talk about it loud and be assertive, you know? So that's what I think, like that brings me a lot of joy when I see people finding their voice. So thank you so much for coming to this panel. I so enjoyed it.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists. So inspiring to hear from all of you. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that both Representative Prusso and Councilmember Rollins Fernandez are alumni of HAPA's Kuleana Academy, which is a political leadership and candidate training program. And I know that they would say we need reinforcements. So if there are folks who want to deepen their advocacy, they're considering engaging at that level, please do check out our website. We won't be offering another program until after the 2022 election. We kind of time them to tee into election cycles. So, but we need you, and all of your voices are important. So thanks so much to our panelists. And with that, I will pass it off to Erwin Quininola is going to share a little bit more of like a 101 how to engage, how to set up your Capitol website account presentation. So this is really for folks who are kind of brand new to engaging at the legislature. So we want to make it as accessible for everyone. So with that, I will pass it over to Erwin, who is also in the first Food Plus Policy cohort.
Mahalo, Anne, and aloha to everyone. I will be providing you with the information to help you get started to engage in the 2022 legislative process. And I would like to take your focus to the top of the screen. In the internet search bar, you begin by typing in the www.foodpluspolicy.com the internet search bar and hit enter. I apologize. It's not working the way it's supposed to be. Okay. It's working now. So it will take you directly our homepage, which gives you the introduction of what Food Plus Policy is all about. And you can also scroll down to the other pages by clicking on the tabs at the top of the page. But for the interest of time, we will only be focusing on the legislative resources page, which will give you the link to the Capitol website, which is underlined on the first item under the How to Testify column. It is very important to begin with the Capitol website, register as a user, and create your own account to be able to participate in this year's legislative process. Once you get to the homepage, you will see the link to register in the upper right-hand corner. Click on it, and a set of rectangular boxes will appear on the screen where you can type in the required information, and which will be indicated with an asterisk at the right end of the box. Once you are done populating all the required fields with your information, scroll down to the bottom and put a check mark in the box indicating that you understand and agree to the terms above. Click on the Create User button. Make sure to make a note of the email address that you used and the password, because you will need it every time you log into the Capitol website. We also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter in the Food Plus Policy website by accessing the underlined link on the third item under How to Testify column in the Legislative Resources page. If you scroll down farther to the bottom of this page, you will find How Video Resources. It will help you with information on how to register and submit written testimony and/or present an oral testimony. Scroll down even farther to the bottom of the page, and you will find helpful resources to help you navigate the Capitol website. Bills for the 2022 legislative session will be introduced on January 21st, but due to the current surge of daily COVID-19 cases, the Hawaii State Legislature will only allow virtual testimonies and will announce any changes to this policy should conditions improve. The House and Senate committees have the same guidelines. They require all written and oral testimonies to be submitted on or before the 24-hour deadline, for committee members to be able to view them before the hearing. But this is not a hard and fast rule. Written testimonies may still be submitted even after the deadline, except that they will not be viewed by the committee members until after the scheduled hearing. It is required that all oral testimonies for each individual bill must be heard by the committee prior to any question and answer portion. Oral testimonies must be concise and straight to the point, allow time for all other bills in the agenda to be addressed. And a 1 to 2 minute time limit is imposed for every testimony. However, each individual committee has the discretion on how they would like to conduct their own hearings. So with that, they exercise the option not to address all the bills in their agenda. I yield the screen back to Kelsey.
All right. Thank you so much, Erwin. Maybe you can stop share so that my face will be big, or all of our faces will be big. Thank you, Erwin, so much. Erwin is another advocate this year at Food Plus, former intern. And it's not easy to make the Capitol website at all entertaining or something anyone wants to pay attention to. And yet Erwin got that task and he ran with it. So thank you so much, Erwin. So we've reached pretty much the end of our event. We did it. Amazing. That's a wrap. That's not fully a wrap, I guess. Actually, let me just say, stay in touch. Oh, we do have a final slide. If somebody could maybe share their screen and pull up that final slide. Erwin, sorry, I told you the wrong thing maybe. But stay in touch with us. There have been a number of link drops going on. There it is. Thank you. Perfect. A number of link drops going on in the chat. We did not really get to talk about anybody's questions, but we will make an effort to gather up all the questions from the chat and the Q&A feature and kind of see if we can get some answers to them and send them out. There is a recording of this. We'll be posting it. There are some videos published already on our YouTube channel and more coming about the individual bills that we've been able to feature. There are lots of Instagrams to follow, lots of websites to check out. Thank you so much again to everyone who contributed to the videos and to this presentation. And one final thought is we're trying to make the hashtag fix our food system. We're trying to make it happen. Oh yeah. I've never been popular, so it's probably not going to be me that comes up with the viral hashtag, but we're going to try anyway. Hashtag fix our food system. Please share what you learned here today, share the videos, and get ready to submit some testimony this legislative session, just so we can make it known that we want to hashtag fix our food system. All right, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your Thursday. See you in the session. Bye.